Please welcome ALEC Chief Executive Officer, Lisa B. Nelson.
Welcome and good afternoon, ALEC members. I hope you enjoyed this morning's Return to Flight panel with Raytheon as much as I did. What a show of hope and what a great example of the private sector stepping up to the challenges of 2020 to restore consumer confidence and to help society return to normal as quickly and safely as possible. Yesterday, we heard from Texas Governor Greg Abbott about the leadership mindset and how Texas continues to be a beacon of opportunity for businesses and individuals alike. And today, I'm glad to introduce you to another one of America's five-star governors, recently highlighted in the Laffer-ALEC Economic Rankings, the Governor's Report. If you haven't yet seen the report, I encourage you to check it out at gradinggovernors.org. It's such a helpful scorecard of all the governor's innovation and adaptability in light of such unexpected health crisis this year. At ALEC, we learn effective policy solutions from each other. It's how you find the best solutions for your state, and we've got a lot to learn from all of our five-star governors. I am pleased to introduce as our next speaker, a governor who has been recognized as the Innovation Champion by the Consumer Technology Association and a five-star governor in the 2020 Laffer-ALEC report. New Hampshire Governor Chris Sununu is a committed leader to keeping low taxes and innovation-friendly environment in his state. And in the years in his office, he's broken down barriers in government and made New Hampshire a successful state for technology companies. Today, he joins us to discuss innovation reform and cross-state taxation. I'm pleased to welcome to the screen five-star Governor Chris Sununu.
Well, thank you very much. Obviously, really appreciate the recognition, and it's great to just be able to have some time with ALEC, the members, and the membership. Look, obviously, these are very unique times, without a doubt. There's a lot going on, both with COVID, as we've come through it, a lot that we've learned. I think one of the key aspects over this last year, I think that you don't panic. I mean, it sounds so simple, but by not panicking and not simply reacting to a crisis, but really making sure that you're being proactive, even in the moments of some very tough decisions that have to be made. I think that's where you can make your best decisions. And I think having that leadership in terms of the team, you always have to surround yourself with, frankly, the best and the brightest. A good team is the solution to so many different problems, and actually getting folks to remain level-headed. And by level-headed, I mean, you don't panic, you don't just break the bank, you don't just start raising taxes and panicking about your budgets and all this kind of stuff. You have to take kind of a methodical step to it. You have to move quickly, you have to do a lot of tough work, but take that methodical step as you move forward. I think one of the biggest challenges and opportunities at the same time, in a way, over this past year is when all these states got the CARES Act funds. And here in New Hampshire, we're a small state, but we got $1.25 billion in CARES Act funds. That's an extraordinary amount of money for a small state, which means it's an extraordinary opportunity to waste it, frankly, and not do it right. So what we really tried to do was take a bottom-up approach, if you will. Obviously, a lot of that money had to go to relief efforts for PPE and testing and all that. But one of our strategies was to make sure that the dollars ended up in the hands of businesses, knowing early on that the economy was going to be very negatively impacted. We made a lot of investments, what we call our Main Street relief funds, nonprofit investments. If you employ someone, we wanted to be able to get you some relief funds so you could pay your property taxes, pay your local taxes, pay your business taxes, remain viable, while PPP only from the federal side only lasted 8, 12 weeks, whatever it was. We knew that the need was going to be there longer. Instead of just creating more bigger government programs, we really wanted to get it out to Main Street. And we're very successful in doing it. Little old New Hampshire put more dollars in the hands of businesses than any state in the country. And more than California, more than Texas, more than anyone. That's really where we made the heart of our big investments. And it worked. It really did. Our unemployment rate went from one of the highest in the country to now one of the lowest. We have the lowest poverty rate. We have a very positive business climate. And we're able to manage, while still making investments on the COVID side, manage that balance, if you will. We knew that through the surges, the early spring surge, now we're seeing the surge now. We know COVID is going to be there. We're not going to manage the risk to zero. So if you're going to have COVID, you might as well have a strong economy too, because all the negative detrimental effects that come from not having jobs, from not having economic opportunity, we knew early on was going to be disastrous with the mental health issues, the isolation, folks just relying on big government stimulus. We didn't want to do that. We wanted the businesses to be able to keep folks viable. So we have a lot of guidance documents. We did a lot of that, made a lot of those, that tough work early on, knowing we're going to take heat and criticism on both sides. We made the decision on day one, ignore all the criticism, ignore it all. You got to just do what's right by the state and stay true to that live free or die spirit. Stay true to those values, if you will, that we really, I always say it's more than 4 words on a license plate. It is really live free or die is really how we live here. Now, knowing that we had to make some tough decisions and put some of these guidances in place and some of these regulatory stipulations around the health and safety of COVID in place, but still keeping that business flexibility. And what it has really done is a couple things. First, the big budget crisis we thought we were going to have isn't there. We probably have what we thought was going to be a $500 million budget hole is now more like a $50 million budget hole. We just managed the heck out of it. We're not raising taxes. I vetoed a couple potential income taxes. We don't have income taxes here. We should never have income taxes in New Hampshire. I was proud to veto those crazy bills. But that was a reaction of some of the legislature overreacting, if you will, over panicking. And what it was fundamentally going to do was change us for the long term. So you can manage your way through a crisis without negative long-term ramifications. But you got to be willing to kind of walk through fire to do it a little bit. So coming out of that, because we supported businesses so well, we took the criticism there, but we did it and we did it right. That's allowed us at the state level to have a lot more budget security, a lot more financial security going forward. We don't have to borrow money for our unemployment trust fund or anything like that. We're actually quite viable. We even put some CARES Act money into that to actually, it helps reduce the taxes. As the unemployment trust fund grows in most states, taxes go up as well. We put money back into the trust fund, again, for those tax cuts. The last thing you should be doing in an economic crisis is taking another buck out of your citizens' pockets. It makes no sense, and it sets the wrong tone. And in doing that, New England's a very regional area, right? Massachusetts, Vermont, Maine, New Hampshire, Connecticut, we're all very much tied together. Our businesses, our families, going across the border in New England, we do as much as some people go across county borders in the larger states. So how we interact with our partners really does matter. So we try to do a lot of things in conjunction. And again, not to pick on those other states by any means, because I think they're all handling COVID as well as they can, but they're also making decisions that are driving businesses out. Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, they are driving businesses straight out of their downtowns. I said on CNBC a couple months ago, it was like, Andy Cuomo put a big sign on the Brooklyn Bridge that said, "Last one out, turn out the lights," because everyone is leaving New York. Everyone is. Now they're coming here. The businesses are coming here. Their headquarters are coming here. Their employees are coming here. Their remote workers are coming here. And so we have a very pro-business mentality. We haven't lost that. And if anything, we've become a magnet for the Northeast. And already, even during COVID, the number of businesses that are expanding and growing in New Hampshire has been just phenomenal, really phenomenal. So we feel very confident we've set ourselves up today to handle the COVID, but also really set ourselves up for the long term and put us in the driver's seat. Well, they're all bailing themselves out. Our economy is going to be coming out like a rocket. It really is. It's already very, very strong. We have about 3.5%, 4% unemployment. We have lots of available jobs. Manufacturers, especially high-tech manufacturing, is moving in here. And we're just keeping with that mentality of do right by individuals, do right by businesses. I always say, as the head of government, I'm telling you, don't just think government's the answer. It's really not. My job is to manage and keep things nimble, keep the guidelines in place and keep structure in place, but be nimble and really focus on that aspect of customer service. And when you have that mentality, a lot of really, really good things come from it, not just from your departments being a little approachable by the citizenry, but allowing them and empowering them to get involved in details, right? And it's not a, hey, we're the government, you have to follow our rules, as much as it is, hey, we're the government, truly, how can we help? Like, what do I need to do to get out of your way so that you and your family and your business and your school can be successful? That's more of the approach that we're trying to take. We want to be more of a safety net and not a crutch for folks just to lean on all the time. And I think that's how we separate ourselves from the rest of New England, very, frankly. So that has put us in a very advantageous position. A lot of businesses coming out of Seattle and Oregon, San Francisco, a lot of tech companies coming out of San Francisco, software developers now moving here to New Hampshire. You can still be 35, 40 minutes outside of a hub of Boston. Boston's terrific, great cultural hub, great economic and education hub, a healthcare hub, but you don't have to be right in downtown dealing with the taxes and the traffic and the bureaucracy and the nonsense, right? You can be literally right over the border in basically the tax-free suburbs of Boston, if you will. And so sticking to that model that has led us to be very, very successful is fundamentally very, very important. Now, what comes in the next year will be very interesting. We see a lot of talk out of Washington about stimulus this and stimulus that, and that would be great. Again, we'll be able to put it to jobs. We'll be able to put it to infrastructure around those developing businesses, infrastructure around those developing communities, lowering those property taxes for them at a localized level while maintaining very, very few taxes at the state level. That just gives us a leg up on everybody while they're bailing themselves out. The other big thing is because, again, we were able to manage tough decisions, right? We had to freeze hiring and freeze a lot of spending over the last year, but we got that $500 million gap down to about a $50 or $60 million gap. I mean, I don't want to call it a rounding error, but it's incredibly manageable without a doubt, without massive cuts to services or things of that nature. And still, again, focusing on priorities. Focusing on the priorities of mental health, focusing on the priorities of SUD or some of these real core programs that you just need in your communities to make them viable and take care of some of the needs that have always been there and will continue to be there. Doesn't mean you just keep pumping money into the system, but empowering folks to be innovative. Innovation is a big deal with our administration. I'm an engineer by trade, by background. I was a civil and environmental engineer for about 12 years. Out in the field. And so, one thing I've always learned is you need to design a system to be flexible, design it knowing that you probably didn't design it perfect the first time, right? So you have to make sure that you have plan B and plan C ready to go. And that's not always very intuitive in government or intuitive with the legislature that has a fixed idea and wants to keep everybody in this very, very tight lane. We want to make sure that people have flexibility. We want to make sure that people can spread their wings a little bit, and we should be adapting to them. We should never be asking businesses or citizens to fit, their round peg into our square hole. Just the opposite. It's how do I wrap my services around your needs, not the other way around. And surprising, that's a very unique approach to government I've found. And I know that only because people fight it. No real logic behind fighting it other than that sounds like a lot of work that we don't normally do it that way. But by not just forcing it upon them, but empowering some of the bureaucrats, if you will, to be part of these new innovative solutions, allowing them to put their ideas on the table, they take ownership of it. And when they do that, they're much more apt to be part of that positive change you want to be. So it isn't about just having a good idea and forcing it on them. It's having a good idea, letting those seeds grow a little bit, allowing some of their ideas to get intermixed with it a little bit, and allowing the government to move forward in a way that they feel empowered, and they then want to have more accountability to it, and they take more responsibility on because of it. It's a lot easier to do in the private sector. I ran a private sector business for quite a while, than in the public sector, but it does work. It does, and it takes a little time. One of the last challenges we always have here is the fact that myself and Governor Phil Scott in Vermont, we're the only two governors in the country that have to get elected every 2 years. Some people would think that means we're just always campaigning. Just the opposite. I think Phil shares this philosophy with me. The key to that, the secret there, is not campaigning, is really focusing on working, throwing politics aside in the decisions, and just getting a lot of stuff done. When politics comes into play in your decision-making, it rarely helps a better outcome. But when you throw that aside, you simply get so much more done. And then you have a tighter campaign window, but you're running on so many more successes. And that's been, very helpful for us. And, I just got elected to my third term, which is wonderful. But again, literally the next morning, I got to sleep in for a couple hours, but we were right back at work, both with COVID, managing the budget, a bunch of different priorities that we have here for the state. The job just never really ends. But again, part of why I talk about that empowerment of your own state employees, empowerment of government bureaucrats, and empowerment of them with their and in championing some of their innovative ideas is it just helps the whole team move forward. And frankly, it just makes the job so much more enjoyable because you really do have a all hands on deck team effort. And that's how you can move people from, well, more taxes and bigger government to, well, yeah, it's more fun when we just challenge ourselves to find a better way to do it. Because what you can show is with those efficiencies, you might dwindle down the size of government, but get more dollars actually into the programs that are really spurring some benefits for folks. So again, it's been a very odd year. It's been a very tough year. I think the key for us has always been not just reacting to a crisis. If the pendulum is always swinging one way or the other. And if you're only reacting when the pendulum is up here, you're really just making a decision based on this point in time, as opposed to really looking at where you want to be long term and making sure your decision-making process is part of that strategy, even when you're not in that part of the cycle. It takes some discipline and it takes some tough messaging with your teams, but I'm just incredibly proud of my teams. They deserve a lot of the credit here. They really do. They're the ones that really put a lot of these ideas on the table, and we had to stand up and give confidence to the people of the state of New Hampshire that it was going to work financially, it was going to work practically from a health and safety standpoint, from a business standpoint. But all this deregulation and tax cutting we've been able to do has been phenomenal, and we're going to keep doing it. I got a $55 million, $60 million budget hole to manage, and I'm still going to cut taxes. When you cut more taxes, more businesses come in, revenue goes up, opportunity is created. We've proven that model time and again. It baffles me how these states, like New York and some others, California, just keep raising taxes, chasing people out. They see their revenues dropping and their only solution is to raise more taxes. It just doesn't make any logical sense whatsoever. It's the definition of terrible leadership, frankly. And so we're just trying to lead by example as best we can, work with all these states as best we can, learn from others, try to take models where we can, but remember what New Hampshire is all about. 50 states, we're all very different. New Hampshire, we do it a little bit different and a lot better. We take a heck of a lot of pride in that. And we want to be the model, right? We want to be the gold standard that everyone follows. So again, I just wanted to say, thank you very much. We really do appreciate the recognition. It's important for not just me by any means, but my team, because they are killing themselves. They're working 25 hours a day for the last couple of years here, especially this last year through COVID. And to be recognized with that, even in tough times, really does mean a lot. So we really do appreciate it, and we can't thank you enough.